Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle once again. It is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond. Listening to us on incredible radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400, the Midlands around the world, on the iHeartRadio app. And yeah, he's got a segment with Teddy Hefner every week as well, but he joins us and has been joining us for a long, long time. Mike Uva, GamecockCentral.com, joins us. Mike, man, hope you're doing good. And I imagine the guy from the north, any threat of inclement weather in the south to you just seems like a joke.
Yes and no. I think when I first got down here, especially when I would cover the high school games at Watch Fox on Friday nights, I think I was the guy that tried to push it a little bit, right? Like I felt like good in late October. Maybe I'd wear shorts out to a game and everyone would look at me like I was a little crazy. But I think over time, between being in South Mississippi, my body has started to acclimate a little bit different, and I'm kind of part of that southern blood. So it gets colder a little bit easier. But at the same time, too, I mean, as long as there's no wind chill, like the other night during Shane Beamer's award ceremony, I was outside on the porch at my girlfriend's place because, well, I couldn't be inside because there's something going on in there. So a crisp 36 degrees in Charlotte wasn't too bad.
No, look, I've been in the South my whole life. As a matter of fact, if we get any snow this week, it'll probably start to push the record amount of snow that I've seen in my lifetime. But hopefully we'll get a little bit. All right, I want to start. You mentioned Shane Beamer. I want to start with Coach Beamer and what we'll call the transformation of the South Carolina football program. I mean, I think it all starts with culture. You could certainly see that energy in year one. But we've continued to see this South Carolina team dig into the transfer portal to try to revamp some of the areas of concern, I guess you might say. I mean, how do you rate the start to his tenure? If 10 is, man, you couldn't get any better, and 1 is, why did we hire this guy?
Ooh, well, I think the tough thing is when you look at something like this, you got to realize that it's strictly speaking about South Carolina, right? I mean, if you're trying to compare what Shane Beamer did standard-wise in comparison to Clemson or another school, would it be as high? Certainly not. But strictly speaking about what Beamer has done in a year, meaning both on the field and this offseason in the transfer portal and recruiting, I'd say it has to be around that 8. It has to be around that 8 mark. And the reason why I say that is because of this. South Carolina had 6 wins combined the 2 previous seasons before this year. They won those 6 games in the regular season. They earned their 7th victory by winning their first bowl game, being in an appearance in 3 years. They win that.
Right.
On top of that, there is a higher buzz in this town right now than there's been in quite some time. So I'm not going to be crazy and say, oh, yeah, it's a 10. I mean, shoot. I mean, that's like going to a restaurant, getting a pizza or getting some type of steak and say, oh, that's a 10. There's no such thing as a 10. Because as soon as you say there's a 10, there could be another restaurant that has a better steak or a better burger. You can never give a 10. You can give a high 9.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go that crazy. There's certainly some room for improvement. But I think just based on where this program was a year ago when he arrived, there's excitement. You have a new coach coming in. But at the same time, too, that was the honeymoon phase. Once they took the field, there was some ups, there was downs. They got their they got their teeth kicked in against Clemson. There's no other way to put it. But they rebounded back nicely for the bowl win, and now they've been able to get a lot of positive momentum these last 6 weeks or so, especially through the transfer portal. So I think there's a lot of positive momentum just based on what Coach Beamer has been able to do lately, what he's been able to do within this last year, and strictly speaking, when looking at South Carolina and not any other school.
Mike Uva joins us every week to talk a little bit about the South Carolina Gamecocks as we peek over the fence. GamecockCentral.com is the website. Shane Beamer was also named the Football Writers Association of America Steve Spurrier first year Coach of the Year. And I think that positive momentum is something that is it safe to say that South Carolina fans maybe, and again, I know South Carolina fans don't determine or dictate what happens on the gridiron on Saturdays, but is it safe to say that maybe I don't want to say underappreciated, but maybe they didn't quite recognize what having a guy with the attitude and the things that Shane Beamer has and have paralleled Dabo Swinney. Did they realize what that could do for a program, or do you think this has caught some of those folks off guard?
I think it certainly caught some people off guard because it doesn't matter how nice of a guy you are. I mean, like Will Muschamp. Will Muschamp was a very, very, and is, I should say, is a very nice person. When he's away from the camera, I always tell people he is completely different. He is funny. He is more open. He's not as reserved. You know, you hear people that covered him down in Florida, and they felt that he was a little bit more open to the media down there, and he felt like he got burnt a little bit. And that's why he went back to that Saban cloth that he's from when he got here at South Carolina when he was in front of the camera. So
Right.
I say all that because you can be the nicest guy in the world. For example, Frank Martin, one of the nicest people you'll meet. There's a lot of people that aren't happy with him right now from a basketball standpoint. Does that mean he's a bad person? No. But you need to be able to produce on the field. You have to produce on the court. So as far as Shane Beamer goes, I think there was a lot of question marks. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that he had never been a head coach before. So he gets here at South Carolina. He gets the buzz going. The honeymoon phase, it's great. But what happens once we get into the fall? What happens once the wins and losses start to count? And once they were able to get a couple wins under his belt, even through some of the down points, some of the road bumps, the Texas A&M games of the world, the Clemson game of the world, the fact that they were able to finish the way that they did, and then being able to get some even more positive momentum this offseason through the transfer portal and recruiting, I think it just shows that, yes, you can be able to have that type of success by being just genuine, by being yourself. There's no blueprint. Is Nick Saban Mr. Jolly out there? No, but that's who he is. You have to be true to yourself. Dabo's done. Dabo's been true to himself. And I think the people that do that, especially in this era that we live in with college football, I think they will have a lot of success when it comes to recruiting. And if you can be able to get wins, that's just only going to help things even that much more.
Mike Uva's on Twitter at Mike_UVA. Mike, you brought up the transfer portal, and obviously Shane Beamer's done a great job there. Look, I said yesterday on the program, I think you've got to give it a little bit of time, right? Like with everything, I think it eventually levels off to a degree. But wouldn't you say that after maybe 5 years of this transfer portal, we got to look back and see how many of these guys went in, ended up without a spot, and how dangerous it is to the student athlete more than anything?
No, I agree with you 100%. And I know that the transfer portal, especially within the last 2 years, has really just took on a life of its own. But you hear the story that comes out with Tate Martell. I mean, the guy that hopped around for 3 different schools, Ohio State to Miami to Utah, and he announces yesterday that he's retiring from football. So I understand you look at a story like that, you look at a situation, especially considering who's a 4-star recruit rated by rivals coming out of college, coming out of high school, going into college. It's easy to laugh at the kid. It's easy to be like, look at this. I think his story is more important now for high school players to look at and high school coaches to educate their players on when they do make that decision that they want to play collegiate football, because the grass is not always greener on the other side. Now, that's just using one example. But the point being is there are a lot of kids, especially when it comes down to not being that blue chip player, being that guy that coming out of college, not that stars really make a difference. I think so many people get caught up with the stars in the transfer portal. It really doesn't really mean anything. Stars. I mean, what have you done in college? What have you done?
Right.
You see the guy coming to South Carolina, Wells Jr. He played at James Madison. Well, in 2 seasons, he was able to set numerous records, including 3 records just this past season. He was one of the top FCS receivers, and now he's come to the SEC. So I say all that because so many people get caught up with all this. And I think what will happen, unfortunately, and it already has, the players that are kind of in that in between area, right? Like they're a good player, but numbers are starting to pile up. And each year that passes, you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball just a little bit more because you have talented players right behind you. I mean, think of the NFL. It happens to the NFL all the time. You draft players, you bring new players in, you get some players that go undrafted. They're challenging the guys that are there. You only have X amount of spots. And a majority of these players, especially when you talk about Power 5 schools, whether it be the SECs of the world or, even Clemson, you think about how many of those guys that are on scholarship truly believe in their mind they're going to play football at the next level. So if you have all these people thinking that, and you have other players that are hopping around trying to get onto the field, well, you only have 11 spots both on offense and defense. And you can throw the kicker out there and the long snapper as well. There's only X amount of positions. So you got to figure out, man, what am I going to do, number one? And hopefully, two, what we saw this past national championship at Georgia resonates with some people as well, which is like, you know what? It's not always going to go my way. I mean, look at Alabama the last couple of years with a number of quarterbacks that are in the NFL right now, starting, and they all waited their turn. Every situation is different. So I'm not going to say, this is what a kid should do, because I don't know what a kid's situation is. But at the same time, too, don't just, okay, it's not working out here, go into the transfer portal, because it might not be what you think it is on the other side once you get there.
He is on Twitter at Mike_UVA, GamecockCentral.com. The website, as we peek over the fence to talk a little bit about the South Carolina Gamecocks and really just the state of the world of college football and maneuvering, obviously, into basketball season. But I think like you, Mike, once the playoffs in the NFL get going, I stay locked in on it. How weird is it for you to have the Patriots get beat up the way they did by the Bills over the weekend, and yet you still have like Tom Brady out there and Rob Gronkowski at Tampa Bay? I mean, I know they won the Super Bowl a year ago, but to see your beloved Patriots get beaten the way they did, only to have these other two former stars still out there fighting, it's got to be just a weird situation for you.
I've said this before, and this is why I always laugh when Clemson fans say, "Oh, you're a big Gamecock fan." Look, at the end of the day, I could really care less. What happens with South Carolina. I build relationships with people at South Carolina, build relationships with people at Clemson. I want to see all those people do well, that I build those relationships with. But in terms of fandom, oh, man, Boston teams, especially the Patriots, up. I mean, 20 years ago on Wednesday, today's the anniversary of the Tuck Rule game. That changed the history of not just Patriot football, but the NFL as we know it. And it's scary to think that Brady's still playing at such a high level. So I think for me, I'll never be one of those people that say, "Oh, Boston team, or this, we have this many rings." Doesn't really matter. But I've seen so many dang championships in my lifetime that I'd be just ungrateful if I complain more that they don't have another ring. So does it stink? Of course. I mean, I was spoiled. It was basically like, all right, Patriots get to the playoffs. I don't care about the regular season. And just wake me up when it's the AFC Championship game. I got that arrogant with the Patriots. I mean, it really was 8 straight. It was ridiculous. So it stinks. Now I feel just like the rest of you miserable NFL fans out there who have had to suffer and seen the Patriots win year after year after year. It stinks, this 3-year title drought of Boston teams in general. I'm sure so many people feel so bad for me and all us Boston fans out there. But that is weird. But with that being said, it is neat to see Brady out there. I mean, and anyone that says all these Patriot fans are just going to flip, some will. Me personally, I'm not going to sell. When Tom Brady won the championship last year, when he won the Super Bowl for the Buccaneers, it wasn't the same feeling as seeing the Patriots win. But I was happy for the guy. The guy's brought so much happiness to not just my life, but so many New Englanders and so many Patriot fans across the country's life, that why can't you be happy for the guy? I mean, when the Buccaneers played the Patriots, Swanee, I wanted to see the Patriots stuff it to Brady. But Patriots aren't in it. I want to see Brady do well. Plus, I can always fall back on that. That's not the reason I'm cheering for him. I got my fellow Assumption Greyhound teammate, who's the long snapper, Zach Trinner, on the team. So I'll be pulling for Zach out there this weekend and moving forward in the playoffs.
What cracks me up is all year, when I was talking to my son about Brady, I would say, man, it's so funny that he's older than his offensive coordinator, Byron Leftwich, who many people remember from his time at Marshall and in the NFL. And then now that the playoffs are whittling down, I saw the stat yesterday that he is older than every opposing NFC head coach still playing in the playoffs.
It's insane. Brady's 44. Brady's 44. Sean McVay is 35. And then when you look at the other two coaches, they're both 42 years old. So it is insane when you put that math into it. I mean, shoot, we talk about it's the anniversary of the Tuck Rule game 20 years ago. I mean, both McVay was 15 years old. The other two coaches were just a year over being able to drink. I mean, they were 22 years old. I mean, it is absolutely insane. But I'll say this. Whether you like the Patriots, and I get put the Patriots aside, whether you like Tom Brady, big picture, wise or not, you have to appreciate the fact of what we're witnessing, because I don't think, even with the rules being as protective of the quarterback now more than ever, I don't think we'll ever see this again. And one of the main reasons, and people kind of forget this when they talk about the Patriots' dominance, the reason why the Patriots were able to be so successful, outside of the fact they had, and have one of the greatest coaches of all time, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and some of the best players too. Brady took so many pay cuts because he's married to a supermodel wife. He didn't need the money. So that money was able to go elsewhere, and they were able to stack those teams. Now he's getting paid, but Tampa's not afraid to spend some money, so they're able to have some success down there. So I don't think we'll ever see, especially when you talk about NIL in college and just that mentality. I think it's just very difficult for someone to say, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to take that kind of pay cut. Unless someone goes out and marries a supermodel wife and they're willing to take that cut and put their ego aside, I just don't think we're going to be able to see that replicated, on top of the fact that you need talent too. So, I mean, it was a perfect storm for a recipe of success, and Brady's been able to make the most out of it for now 20 plus years.
Man, his career. And the thing too, and I'll let you go after this, he's just so efficient. Like you watch him. I mean, we could talk about the game being set up for success of the quarterback. There's not a lot to it, right? Very tight motion, doesn't move a lot in the pocket, just makes his reads, makes his checks. If he doesn't have it, throws the ball away and takes his next shot. I mean, he's fun to watch. Whether he was in New England, whether he's with Tampa, it doesn't matter to me. Tom Brady, one of the most fun and enjoyable quarterbacks I've ever been able to see. Mike, always appreciate you, buddy. Yeah.
I do want to say this, because it goes back to maybe Trevor Lawrence and looking at when people say, oh, Brady's a system quarterback. Every successful quarterback is a system quarterback. If Trevor Lawrence wants to have success, he has to be in the right system. He's a talented freaking player. So I use Trevor for example with the Brady comparison, because I always laugh when people say, oh, he's a system quarterback. Mahomes is in a system. If Mahomes was on a different team, if Mahomes was playing with the Jaguars, do you think he'd still be able to do all this? No.
No.
You need to be in the right system to be successful. So people say, oh, he's a system quarterback. Take that as a freaking compliment. Really. Take it as a compliment, whether it's pro, whether it's college, whether it's high school, whether it's Pop Warner. System quarterbacks, you need it. That's what makes success. Just forget that whole stigma about system quarterbacks as a negative thing. No, embrace it.
He's on Twitter at Mike_UVA, GamecockCentral.com. Mike, we'll talk to you next week, man. Always good catching up with you.
Appreciate it, Swanee.
Great catching up with Mike Uva. Coming up on the program, we'll talk a little Clemson Tiger basketball. It was not great at Syracuse. Stay with us for more of the show that shakes the Southland.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Bank. That's bank. Enter it now.
Fox Sports Radio 1400 traffic.
Couple of wrecks this afternoon. Farrow Road at I-20 and also Ringwood Lane at Delchester. If you're stuck, use the 103.5 FM WDOC traffic tip line 343-1055.
This report is sponsored by Mucinex Fastmax Cold and Flu All-in-One. When cold and flu season has you down, don't play around. Stay on top of your game with Mucinex Fastmax Cold and Flu All-in-One, delivering unbeatable multi-symptom relief to help you power through your day. Mucinex Fastmax Cold and Flu All-in-One and done. Use as directed.
Hi, this is John Farley. For the past 12 years, you've seen me on TV. But before becoming a meteorologist, my first degree was actually in finance. My parents, like a lot of people, didn't know much about the financial world. As a result, they got exploited by some not-so-honest folks. That's why finance has always been a passion of mine, and for the last 6 years, I've been working with the team at Preservation Specialists to help people just like you plan for your retirement. What I love about Preservation Specialists is that we are locally owned and fiercely independent. That means we simply work for you. If that's what you want in a financial advisor, then give us a call now at 803-9-RETIRE. That's 803-9-RETIRE. Don't make the same mistakes my parents did. Work with an advisor who can help get you to and through retirement successfully. 803-9-RETIRE.
Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through Kalos Capital, Inc.
Paid for by Consumer Tort Network. Always check with your doctor before discontinuing any medication.
Has your doctor told you that you have cancer? Have you taken Zantac or another generic version of this popular drug to help treat stomach issues? Then pay close attention to this message. The FDA said it detected low levels of a probable cancer-causing chemical known as NDMA in Zantac and other generic forms of the drug. Some of the largest stores in the country have them off the shelves. If you've been diagnosed with cancer and you've taken Zantac or a generic equivalent, call the Consumer Tort Network now at 800-513-6073. You could receive a free cash award and have your medical expenses covered. We represent some of the largest law firms in America. They have proven records fighting the big pharmaceutical giants, and there's no upfront cost to you. They only get paid if you win. We're here to help, so please call now. 800-513-6073. 800-513-6073. That's 800-513-6073.
Not on my watch, our military service members say, as they volunteer to serve. Not on my watch, they say, as they leave their families behind to keep the rest of ours safe. As they move out, stand firm, and take fire. So not on our watch, we say, to the severely ill or injured veterans who can't get the care they deserve, the therapists they need to walk again, the treatment they need to talk again, the lifetime of day-to-day help they need to live full and independent lives. When there's no more government funding, or a nursing home seems like the only option, or everyone says there's no hope for recovery, we won't leave one warrior behind. Not on our watch. Find out how you can do your part at findwwp.org.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. MAD is here to help. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org. That's MADD.org.
Now, back to Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan on Columbia's home for the 2018 National Championship Tigers, Fox Sports Radio 1400.
Rocking and rolling with you on a Wednesday. Always good to catch up with Mike Uva, even though a little different day. I mean, it is what it is, but we got him in to talk a little bit about the South Carolina Gamecocks. And again, you know, the Shane Beamer deal, and he is not afraid to use the portal. They are in it to win it. They are in it to compete. And I know it's a steep mountain to climb. If the name emblazoned on the head coaching monikers and the placards over at South Carolina was still Will Muschamp, I tell you, it's not going to work out. I don't think Muschamp is cut out to be a successful head coach. Couldn't do it at Florida. Couldn't do it at South Carolina. It's just not going to happen. He to me, while Mike may talk about his personality off of the field or away from the media, the fact remains that's a big part of who you are, and you can't shake it. And so I just tend to believe that the South Carolina Gamecocks have the right guy. And I think Shane Beamer in year one has proven that my theory about who he can be collegiately is truthful and factual. And I think the only thing stopping Shane Beamer from having a long-term or long-tenured success level at South Carolina, and again, it's relative, right? Like, I don't think you're ever going to see him have the type of success Dabo Swinney had at Clemson. That would be a shocking result. Could he have one of the best tenures in the history of South Carolina as it pertains to coaches, especially if we talk about longevity? Yeah, because when the Gamecocks brought in Lou Holtz, you're getting a guy who's at the back end of his career. When they bring in Steve Spurrier, you're getting a guy that's at the back end of his career. When you get Shane Beamer, you're getting the front end of a young and up-and-coming coach who's going to inspire guys to come play for him. And look, Clemson fans may not like to hear that, but that's the truth. And that's why things worked for Dabo Swinney at Clemson. With all that being said, however, the thing that I think could get in South Carolina's way of that continued longevity of success under Shane Beamer is the fact that I think he will be hotly pursued at some point if my assumptions about the type of success he'll have come to fruition. I think he'll get an opportunity at a job that's better than South Carolina. And for Gamecock fans, that's just kind of the nature of the beast that you deal with, given the history of your program by comparison to other programs out there. And I get it, man. That's like, Swanee, you're cutting me deep. You're taking a shot at me. Why you got to do this to me? Because I know this. If I called up one of he's probably no doubt my best Gamecock friend. If I called him up today, guy I grew up with, and I told him that, if I said, Blake, this is why I think it's going to be tough for South Carolina, because I don't know that you can hold on to Shane Beamer for the extended period that you would like to get yourself to the mountaintop, to get yourself into the conversation of being a consistent big name in college football. I think he would say you're probably right. Like, he'd want to wish that Shane Beamer would stay, but he'd also know that Shane Beamer would leave. Because no matter how all in or whatever you want to say Shane Beamer is in Columbia, dollars drive this business and better opportunities present itself to you at some point in your career, and it is incredibly difficult to turn down. I took heat this past year for simply suggesting that if the job came open at Virginia Tech, that it was a better job and that I think he should take it. And I really don't care what you think about my take. I'll say it again. That's a better job. And if it ever comes back open for Shane Beamer to take it, he should take it. It is a place that he can win not only more consistently than he's doing at South Carolina, but I think he can compete quicker for conference championships. There's just a lot of reasons, if you're Shane Beamer, to like that job or many other jobs across the country. The reason you love South Carolina, if you're Shane Beamer right now, first, they gave you the opportunity without experience of being a coordinator. Number two, they are in your, I don't want to say your back pocket right now, but Shane Beamer is the puppet master at this point in Columbia because of how good he has done. And it is, I was on with Mark Ryan a couple of weeks ago, and Mark was doing a whole thing about the first 13 games, comparing Dabo to Shane Beamer, and Beamer's, I guess, win-loss record or whatever through 13 is actually better, and he has a bowl victory in the first 13 games during his time at South Carolina. But like I said, look, you can slice it up that way if that's what you want to do. But will he have the run that Dabo Swinney has had since? No. Nobody's projecting that. I mean, Dabo Swinney, again, is on pace. If he were to go undefeated this year, which I know is a stretch of the imagination, but if he could pull that off, which if you say Dabo Swinney will never pull off 15-0, I'll say to you he has already. But if he were to pull it off, he would equal the best start in the history of college football through 15 seasons with Urban Meyer. If he wins 10 or more, he'll be the second best all time, ahead of Bob Stoops through 15 years. So from that perspective, I don't think Shane Beamer's going to keep up. If you want to argue about the first 13 games, then yeah, sure. I'll give you that. I'll say, yeah, Beamer had a better first 13 games because he, in his first 13 games, won a bowl game and I guess had a better record than Dabo's. I don't have it sitting in front of me. Whatever you're, but that's a weird situation because you're back-ending Dabo's time at Clemson to when he took over from Tommy Bowden and not starting him with a full season the way Shane Beamer had. Oh, well. Because that first year for Swinney, by the way, they went to the ACC championship game. Holler at your boy when Shane Beamer ends up in the SEC championship. I mean, that's kind of my point about the difference in you choose the metrics. It's one of those things where you choose the timeline, you get the result you're looking for. But to keep up, can Beamer do that? I don't know. But he's good enough to keep winning. I feel that. Stay with us for more of the show that shakes the Southland.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Mike Capel here, serial entrepreneur. My second business was open 6 days a week and I worked from home the 7th day. I maintained that ridiculous schedule for 8 years. One Saturday morning in 1999, I woke up late for work and was greeted by my 6-year-old.
Oh, hi, Dad. Why aren't you at work?
I answered, because it's Saturday. He said,
Oh, thanks for visiting, Dad.
His words pierced my heart. I had become a workaholic. It was decision time. What's more important, family or work? I chose family and I stopped working 7 days a week. That's why I created Patriot Software, so entrepreneurs can run their payroll in minutes, which gives more time for their families. Go to PatriotSoftware.com. Use promo code RADIO and get 2 months of payroll processing free. That's PatriotSoftware.com.
Attention RVers! The Columbia RV Expo is January 28th through 30th at the South Carolina State Fairgrounds. Find the best selection and best prices on RVs for all budgets. The options are endless. Details and discounts at ColumbiaRVExpo.com.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Bank. That's bank. Enter it now.
Now the forecast from the Red Shirt Guys Roofing. TheRedShirtGuys.com.
Light wind, bright blue skies, and sunshine. I guess you could say the calm before the storm. Today, temperatures reach 60 degrees. For ABC Columbia Channel 25, I'm Tyler Ryan.
This report is paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Winter means more time indoors together and more chances to get COVID. But a booster can give everyone who's 12 or older and vaccinated stronger COVID protection. We can do this. Find boosters near you at vaccines.gov. Paid for by the Department of Health and Human Services.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members, of their families or their children. Asking them to deploy, patrol, stay on watch, on point. Asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to bring them all the way home, to keep them secure, to have their backs for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs do whatever it takes to help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Find out how you can help at findwwp.org.
The Red Cross responds to nearly 66,000 disasters every year, most of them house fires. Red Cross President and CEO Gail McGovern says you need to develop an evacuation plan and practice it, especially with your children. It takes just 2 minutes for a home to be engulfed in flames.
Practice those drills. We all think our kids know what to do. They don't. We need to teach them. We have started a large campaign where we're going into vulnerable communities and helping install smoke alarms. Already 92 lives were saved. And 4 of those lives were saved by a 5-year-old girl who remembered what we taught them during these fire drills, and she got her family out. We also have a slew of free apps that people can download onto their smartphones. It's what to do in every kind of disaster you can imagine, how to prepare and how to recover.
To help support all the Red Cross does and to make a financial donation, go to redcross.org. That's redcross.org.
It's sports radio done only the way Fox can do it.
Always something to talk about. There's always controversy. And
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400.
Clemson Sports Talk on a Wednesday. Again, talked a lot about the South Carolina Gamecocks. Coming up in hour number 2, what a treat. My buddy Marc Paisant, he hosts a podcast called Relatively Normal, sort of I would say a mental health and wellness podcast, but he and I have ventured in. I've been on his show twice and have talked a good bit about the mental health and wellness of student athletes and the things they're dealing with. And we'll talk with him about that and a whole lot more coming up in hour number 2. And you know, it's one of those things where I feel like from my standpoint, I'm not saying I was one of the first to ever bring this up, but a year ago when I talked about how these players must be feeling going through what they've dealt with, being tested and feeling isolated, and I mean, on and on and on, I can't imagine what it was like to be a college athlete at the top of the game before COVID-19, let alone trying to deal with that now and stay healthy and not be out and, you know, before a big ball game. And it brings me back to a point I made maybe a month or 2 ago. You know, somebody texted me and they said, man, what a sad sight to see DJ Uiagalelei sitting at a women's volleyball game alone. You know, off by himself. They said he must not have any friends. I don't know if it was a text message or a tweet. You know, somebody not trying to get under my skin, but just I think legitimately an honest observation. Like DJ's playing so bad that people don't want to be around him is the kind of the thought process that was put into this conversation. And, you know, the fact is maybe he's just avoiding being around anybody so he doesn't get COVID. He's in the middle at that time. He was in the middle of the college football season. And can you imagine if that's the way you had to go about it? Like, I don't think any of you are out there like trying to catch COVID-19. I don't think anybody's running around like, here, take a sip of this soda pop and let me see if I can catch it. DJ, I think, was trying to not catch it. And so the isolationism that I think some people, probably players in situations like that, have maybe had to deal with. And again, I don't have any, like, I didn't talk to DJ and he didn't say that. But you have to wonder. I think it's at least worth asking. And the thing is, for these guys, they get tested a lot and they have been tested a lot. And it just, that would further. I mean, imagine when you go and get like a test. You go and get some blood drawn. You're not feeling great. And you say, you finally give in because you're a hard-headed male like me. You finally give in. You go to the doctor. They're like, well, Mr. Swan, looks like we might need to take some blood. And they take some blood. And then you're just waiting to find out, what is it? What do I have? What's going on with me? Imagine if you had to get COVID tested 3 times a week or whatever the number was as the starting quarterback. And if you were positive, you might be out for 2 weeks. I mean, that's a lot of pressure that you and I do not face. And how student athletes and others deal with that. The podcast, again, relatively normal. It doesn't just focus on athletes either. It focuses on the every man, the every woman, everybody out there and what they're dealing with and getting through, not just during COVID, outside of COVID. And Mark is a former Clemson Tiger goalie on the soccer team. So we'll catch up with him in hour number 2, 803-450-0086. So I told you at the end of the first segment, Clemson basketball. The Tigers fall 91-78 at Syracuse. Clemson now 2-5 in the ACC, 10-8 overall. They'll return to the court on Saturday for a matchup against Pittsburgh at 6 o'clock on the ACC network. I'm not going to lie to you. Not going to lie to you. It is just a frustrating group to watch at this point, especially the guard play. I mean, the guard play for Clemson, I don't know, man. I don't know what the fix is. P.J. Hall had 19 points. David Collins had 18. But then your guards, Alamir Dawes and Nick Honor, has sort of vanished from the offense. And I think part of that's a size deal. And then you've also got Syracuse shooting the ball over the top. Buddy Boeheim, son of Jim Boeheim, scores 25 points. Gerard scored 23. And Syracuse never trailed in the second half, walking away from the Clemson Tigers. The Orange had 9 3-pointers. Boeheim and Gerard knocked down 8 of them. Clemson, again, it is a strange environment. I don't deny that, playing up at the Carrier Dome. But after what felt like a promising start, the naysayers around Brad Brownell have gathered again. And I can't blame you. I just can't blame you. And, if you've been a part of this show, I have an on-again, off-again relationship with Brad Brownell. They'll do something. They'll win a game at some point along the way that gives you this grand confidence that they've got a shot. And then they have these stretches where they just flounder. And, I've never known really what the solution is, right? Like, I always thought Rick Barnes was it. And it pains me to see Barnes be at Tennessee, and I think, man, he could have just stuck it out, and he would have been, the longest tenured coach in the league next year after Mike Krzyzewski's career ends. He would have probably won more. I would have assumed, had he kept recruiting and doing things the way he was previously, that he would have had multiple runs to build Clemson's postseason and NCAA resume. And back then when he was at Clemson, he was so young and youthful. And that's what I've always thought Clemson needed. Young and youthful and energetic, and just risk it. You know what? You know what Wes Goodwin says, risk it for the biscuit. No risk it, no biscuit, whatever his saying is. And that's kind of where I am with Clemson basketball. Like, I don't know who the guy is. Can't give you the name. Maybe it's Richie Riley, the former Clemson assistant. But golly, how much longer can you do it? It's hard. And how much longer does Brad Brownell need to prove either A, he can't, or B, that he can? Because at this point, as much as I like Brad Brownell, and he's been a part of the show in the past, and I don't know how you continue down this path and feel like you're headed towards success. That's just the honest truth. Final segment, hour 1, next.
I'm starting the new year by making my home feel like new with the advanced clean of Zero Res. Take advantage of their New Year's sale. Get 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $119. And when you mention this station, you'll get a hallway clean for free. Schedule online at ZeroResColumbia.com.
If you suffer from erectile dysfunction or ED, we know what your New Year's resolution is. Peak Performance for Men knows that 90% of ED cases are caused by old, broken down blood vessels. Medication may offer a temporary cure for the symptom, but Peak Performance for Men uses focused linear compression therapy to treat the cause. Focused linear compression therapy is a scientifically proven, non-invasive treatment that uses pulsed energy waves to open and repair aging blood vessels, increasing blood flow and stimulating stem cell growth, which in turn improves sexual performance. There's no drugs, pumps, needles, surgery, or pain, so there's no side effects or downtime. Over 80% of men who receive the treatment have long-term improvement in male performance, which means Peak Performance for Men can make that New Year's resolution come true. Let the experts help you today. They're offering a free consultation and ultrasound, so why wait? Call 803-302-8181 or visit peakperformanceformen.com.
Way back when, Colombia was a vast dining desert, a wasteland for fast, fresh, authentic Southwestern food. Weren't nothing bundled up nice and warm in a tortilla. Colombia needed Diablos. Southwestern the way you want it. The real deal, with no shortcuts in quality and served up as fast and fresh as you want it. Diablo Southwest Grill. Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. DiabloSouthwestGrill.com.
You say goodbye, and I say hello.
With Mercari, your unneeded things can find a new life.
Hello, hello.
Easily list and sell,
I know why you say goodbye, and I say hello.
or discover great finds.
Hello.
Buy or sell almost anything.
You say goodbye, and I say hello.
Download Mercari on the app stores or at Mercari.com. Mercari, your marketplace.
Think you can handle another iHeartRadio True Crime Week? With thousands of true crime podcasts to choose from, finding your next case to binge can be a little intimidating. Lucky for you, our investigators are on the scene with an entire lineup of podcasts to get you started. From stone cold killers to cold cases waiting to be cracked, including the new iHeart podcast, The MLK Tapes.
He never confessed.
Open the free iHeart app and search True Crime to start your next podcast obsession. iHeartRadio. Discover music, radio, and podcasts you'll love.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to ditch the car and start rollerblading to work.
I look ridiculous.
You look ridiculous!
You don't need to start foraging wild berries.
I was skeptical, but these are actually pretty good.
You don't need to sell your organs on the black market.
Lie back. This is gonna hurt.
Yeah, that hurts. You don't need to rent out your apartment to drifters.
I made a fire with the wood in your bedroom
That's my dresser!
and your closet door.
You just need an internet connection. Don't get left behind. Start your personal savings plan with the tips and tools on feedthepig.org. That way, you don't need to sell all your belongings and live in a commune.
These dungarees belong to all of us now, Tom.
Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Fox Sports Radio 1400. Online at foxsportsradio1400.com. On your phone with the iHeartRadio app. And on hundreds of devices like Alexa, Google Home, Xbox, and Sonos. An iHeart radio station.
Final segment of hour number one. Again, the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk, Lawton Swan with you. Our website, put the .com on it. Check it out, clemsonsportstalk.com, 803-450-0086. We'd love to have you be a part of the show and the website. Be a part of it, $63.17. If you think this show is worth 17 cents a day, step in and support us. Help us grow. We got some great content up over on the website right now. I think the initial thoughts on the way the site sets up, if you've never been there, I think you're going to go, holy smokes, this is a lot nicer than I thought. I really do believe you'll be surprised at how nice it is. So head over there and check it out. And again, we'd love to have you subscribe to support us. Now, when it comes down to the Clemson Tiger basketball team, I was talking before the break, and maybe I was being a little too harsh, but the reality is, when do you believe? And that's the thing. Like, the problem Brad Brownell has at this point is that every year you lose more people to the vibe of, I can't go back. I just can't support that. And so, consequently, the odds that somebody jumps in and says, yep, I'm going to support that forever, it's slim. So even people who maybe you get a big win on the road at Virginia, or you win your first couple of road games, there's a percentage of people that maybe you do pull in and pull over into your side of the aisle, so to speak. They're like, all right, I'm back with Brad right now. Stick with it. But they've already jumped ship once, and they're less likely to keep hanging on. So what that means is every year the support for Brad Brownell dwindles. It just continues to dwindle. And how much longer do you have to wait before you just say, you know what, it's not going to work? And I think the move with Graham Neff coming in is probably going to end up being the separation of the Tigers and Brad Brownell, unless there's just some unbelievable run to close out the regular season. Outside of that, it just is so hard to imagine Brownell continuing to get opportunities. Again, the Tigers have now dropped 3 consecutive ball games after going on the road and winning at NC State to open ACC play at 2-0 on the road. Excuse me, 1-2. I forgot about the Miami game earlier this year on the road. Next up for the Tigers, as I mentioned, Pittsburgh, 4 o'clock on Saturday, at Duke next week, Florida State at home, at Georgia Tech, and then North Carolina on February 8th. Now, plenty of games remain after that, but at some point, you've got to snap out of this slump and you got to start playing like a team that's possessed. And the problem is, I don't know what you could do to get into the NCAA tournament this year if you don't make a huge run here. You honestly cannot continue down this same path that you're playing and play the way you are playing right now and expect that the results are going to be good for the Clemson Tiger basketball team, in their final games of the regular season. They're probably end up 500 at best, and that's just not good enough. It's really not good enough. And I think the other thing, too, that wears on you is there was so much promise to this season. It did feel like, I know the beginning of the year was disappointing. Some of the early season losses were absolutely disappointing. But the Atlantic Coast Conference schedule was starting to shape up like, okay, this could go pretty well. And then flat on your face. And that is a place that people don't want to be, flat on their face. Especially when you've had the program struggle the way it has under Brad Brownell for this extended period. Look, I'm all in about supporting Brad Brownell when this team is playing well. I will come in here on the air and I'll tell you, they're playing good basketball. They are not. Blowing a 23-point lead to Boston College. I get it. You were hitting a lot of shots early, but you still got to close out the game. And you close out a 23-point lead on the defensive end of the floor where Brad Brownell is supposed to be or is highly regarded, but Clemson does not do that. And additionally, they struggle to score offensively. That's a recipe for disaster. If you can't do the things you're supposed to be good at against competition that you are supposed to beat at home, then how would I ever expect you to go out and beat a North Carolina or a Duke or any other, quote, power broker basketball club? I don't care what North Carolina is doing this year. I just mean, in general, a blue blood of college basketball. How could I expect you to go out and beat them when you can't even take care of the business you're supposed to be able to take care of? You know, if your kid is not dusting off the tables and that's part of their job, you probably don't want to go handing them a chainsaw to go cut down trees. You got to be able to do the small things first. If you can't beat the teams you're supposed to beat, then why would I buy into you beating any big boys? Host of Relatively Normal, former Clemson Tiger goalie Marc Paisant joins the show to talk mental health and wellness with us right after this.
Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan on Columbia's home for sports. Fox Sports Radio 1400. Fox Sports Radio 1400 traffic.
Couple of wrecks this afternoon, Farrow Road at I-20 and also Ringwood Lane at Delchester. If you're stuck, use the 103.5 FM WVOC traffic tip line 343-1055.
This report is sponsored by Mucinex Fastmax Cold and Flu All-in-One. When cold and flu season has you down, don't play around. Stay on top of your game with Mucinex Fastmax Cold and Flu All-in-One, delivering unbeatable multi-symptom relief to help you power through your day. Mucinex Fastmax Cold and Flu All-in-One, and done. Use as directed.
iHeartRadio Earth knows small changes can make a big difference. Want to reduce your food waste? Embrace your freezer. From bread to meat and even cheese, most foods can be frozen and cooked later. Plus, a full freezer uses less electricity. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/earth.
Group training is a fun, accountable way to get in shape. I'm Coach Stewart of Dynamic Health and Fitness. Come train with one of our special groups today. We will focus on giving you the support you need to get in shape. We use the Dynamic Mob, featuring intervals of cardio, functional training, and strength training to change your lifestyle to make you healthy. Get started today at any of our locations in Lexington or West Columbia, or call 803-408-4060 or online at dynamichealthclub.com.
Hi, this is John Farley. For the past 12 years, you've seen me on TV. But before becoming a meteorologist, my first degree was actually in finance. My parents, like a lot of people, didn't know much about financial work. As a result, they got exploited by some not-so-honest folks. That's why finance has always been a passion of mine. And for the last 6 years, I've been working with a team at Preservation Specialists to help people just like you plan for your retirement. What I love about Preservation Specialists is that we are locally owned and fiercely independent. That means we simply work for you. If that's what you want in a financial advisor, then give us a call now at 803-9RETIRE. That's 803-9RETIRE. Don't make the same mistakes my parents did. Work with an advisor who can help get you to and through retirement successfully. 803-9RETIRE.
Firm offers insurance services. Investment advisory services offered through Kalos Capital, Inc.
You wanted to see me?
Yes, please, have a seat. So here's the thing. When this company brought you on, we took a chance on you. You didn't have that 4-year college degree we typically look for.
Right.
But we gave you a shot anyway. And since then, you've worked incredibly hard and given it your all.
Thanks.
You've been an important asset to the team, but I don't think you can be an intern here anymore. We want to hire you.
You're serious?
Absolutely.
Find your next great employee. Introduce yourself to the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
I won't let you down.
I know.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
You're bringing your daughter to a pop concert. Do you A, wear earplugs?
Isn't this fun, Dad? I'll have a soft pretzel.
Or B, just roll with it?
Justin! OMG! I love you, Justin! I love you! You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on adoption, visit adoptuskids.org. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
WCOS Columbia, Fox Sports Radio 1400, an iHeart radio station. Available everywhere on our free iHeart Radio app. #1 for music, radio, and podcasts, all in one.
It's time for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set,
Just call me Swanee.
Tiger style. Tiger style.
It is hour number 2. That's drive time right here on the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk, Lawton Swan with you. Thanking Mike Uva for joining us in hour number 1. Hour number 2, a good buddy of mine, Marc Paisant, former Clemson Tiger soccer player, Clemson graduate, but he hosts a podcast called Relatively Normal. I've had a chance to be on that show twice to talk about the nature of college football or sports in general and the mental side of that game, the mental health side. This podcast is directed towards those things, and he does a wonderful job with it. Again, Relatively Normal host, Marc Paisant. Marc, man, glad to have you on the program, and good to be talking to you about an issue that I know is near and dear to your heart, and certainly something that I think a lot of athletes perhaps deal with that maybe they don't, isn't recognized, quote, publicly, and that is their mental health.
Well, first of all, let me say, Swanee, thanks for giving me this platform, and you're 1,000% correct, where, it's kind of a double-edged sword, where we see these people that we watch on TV, watch at the stadiums, watch under the lights, big crowds, and we see them as superhumans. We see our favorite athletes as superhumans, people who aren't allowed to have bad days. They aren't allowed to be human, be normal. And I think it does a lot for our culture, a lot for, humans in general, is to see these people as people having feelings. They go through rough patches. They're not perfect. They get nervous before games. They have a lot of pressure on them, not just from themselves, but from, outside sources. So I think it's just good that we at least take the time to kind of empathize with the human part of the athlete.
Again, Marc Paisant, Relatively Normal is the podcast. Joining us here, he's a former Clemson Tiger soccer player. We'll talk with him about his time there and the national championship for that group this past season. But Marc, in your estimation, after all the interviews that you've done on your show, how big of an impact, and I know it's not strictly focused on mental health of athletes, but this time that we're dealing with COVID-19 and all the testing that these kids have had to go through and things of that nature, I mean, do you feel like that's also become sort of a burden for those individuals?
It definitely has. Like you're 100% correct. Because if you think about it, sports run so much in this country, whether you believe athletes, NCAA athletes should get paid or not. If we go back to the beginning of COVID, the thing that we saw, one of the first things we saw it stop, and one of the first things that we saw restarted was sports. Everybody kind of remembers that image of FSU just standing at half court by themselves, getting the ACC championship, basketball trophy when we had to cancel the ACC tournament. And then we saw how quickly people wanted sports to come back. Like we want that sense of normalcy, and we put that on a lot of athletes, a lot of young athletes. And it really plays into the psyche when you already have that pressure to perform at your best. Now you're adding the pressure of getting people back to normalcy into that. It's almost unfair. Like a lot of people will see it different. Like these players get so much now, they can get paid. The professional athletes get paid millions. Yeah, we can talk about that, and we can express how that might make someone's life better, but it doesn't take away the pressure that comes with it. A lot of us couldn't even imagine the type of pressure that Trevor Lawrence was under when he has to go through the final season trying to make some normalcy, when the guys want to work as hard as they can. And I hate to bring FSU back into this, but you remember the FSU game where it was canceled basically minutes before the game due to a couple COVID positive cases. So you have to think about like what these players do to get their bodies ready, it's the same to get their minds ready and then to have that taken away and then to be forced to do it almost. Like no one, I'm not saying people were forced, but again, as humans, it's good if we at least have empathy, because remember what we're talking about. We're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-olds who have an entire future ahead of them that they're trying to figure out a way just to make sure that isn't taken away from them.
And Marc Paisant hanging out with us. He is the host of a podcast called Relatively Normal. I would suggest it for anybody listening to this program, as it will certainly give you some direction with perhaps not just the issues that maybe you're feeling, but maybe issues that you see from your children, and just a health and wellness standpoint mentally is something that I think we don't take enough time for. So, Marc, do you subscribe to the concepts of apps like oh man, I can't think of some of the names of the.
There's Calm, there's Headspace, there's a bunch of them out there.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, do you subscribe to meditation is the word I was looking for. I mean, is that something you subscribe to for people to, kind of focus on as well?
I do. And I want to take a different stab at this, because I think when people hear the word meditation, they automatically think I have to make a lot of time out of my day. I'll try it once or twice. I'll see how it goes. And I'm kind of speaking from personal experience too, because meditation in itself is not a cure. It's not an end all be all. It's a way of refocusing your mind, especially when you talk about mindfulness meditation. When you talk about taking the world around you and making it a little bit smaller, because what we get, and you and I are about the same age with the same, kind of family, same kind of jobs. We start listing all the stressors in our life. We start thinking about bills. We start thinking about school or work or paying the mortgage. Or, everything seems, we make the world so big. And when I talk about meditation, and again, I am not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist, never said I was. And I say it on my show often. This is just something that, coming from my perspective, a person who's been to therapy, person who's been on medication, person who lives with depression and high functioning anxiety, all those things. When you think about meditation, think about a time to recharge and a time to make your world a little smaller. And you can see it clears your head. And this is the thing, all it can take is 5 minutes a day. Start with 5 minutes a day, but you have to be absolutely sure that this is going to be 5 minutes that you're just going to put towards the bettering of your mental health. Put the phone away, turn the TV off, go to a place in your house, your office, where you're going to be, able to be alone, and then just meditate. And if your mind wanders, go ahead and tag that, note where it wanders and come back to your center. And it's just another way that people can cope. And like the Headspace app is great. Calm is great. But you can go to YouTube and just type in 5-minute meditation. You don't need an app. There's plenty of resources for you to do that type of meditation.
Marc Paisant joining us here today. And again, like you said, he's not a doctor, but Marc, you're a former athlete. And so you dealt with those stresses as an athlete. You even made it at the highest level in terms of collegiately to play soccer at Clemson. Did you feel like when you were younger, did you kind of have that sense that these were things that you were dealing with, and were any of those a byproduct of the sports that you were playing?
So there's a million reasons why I love Clemson. And one of the biggest reasons I love it is because it opened me up to therapy. And if I mention, Fern to anybody at Clemson, they know exactly what I'm talking about. But, I came in to Clemson as a semi-highly recruited goalkeeper. Like a lot of schools wanted me, especially in the Southeast. And I was always kind of put on a pedestal because I was always one of the best on my team, one of the best in the state of Georgia, one of the best in the Southeast. And, you get to college, and a lot of people talk about this. You're not that big fish in a small pond anymore. You're a very small fish. We're not all Trevor Lawrence.
Right.
We're not that guy. And I'm not, any of those guys. So I remember coming into Clemson and thinking, I really didn't know what to think, to be honest with you. And the coaching was different. My teammates were different. My roommates were different. Everything was different. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to cope. And I remember just going back in the days, we didn't have high-speed internet at that time. I hate to age us, but, went to the local, school counselor, which is located in the medical department, and made an appointment for, I don't know. And to this day, Swanee, I can't tell you why I did that. I was just at a low point in my life. I wanted to transfer. I wanted to go back home. I just was at a low point in my life. And it was my first time actually sitting down with a therapist. And for people who don't understand what therapy is, like, it's not no one's solving your problems. No one's telling you what to do. It's a lot of give and take. It's a lot of person listening, letting you vent, giving you some coping mechanisms, letting you know that your feelings are valid. And that's what a lot of people don't understand, is that they will tell themselves, I shouldn't feel this way. As much as DJ struggled last year, he had every right to feel frustrated. He had every right to feel sad. At the same time, he had every right to feel blessed and grateful that he had an opportunity to play at Clemson University at the highest level. All of our feelings are valid. If you're upset that Clemson lost, that is a valid feeling. If you're happy that we won, that's a valid feeling. And a lot of people don't understand that. And I definitely did not understand that I was homesick. I was a little fish in a big pond. I was very frustrated. I was about to be redshirt. There's a lot of things that went on in my life, and I was trying to brush them under the rug. Like, hey, just get over it. Man up. Just get over it. And that was incorrect for me. And I think a lot of people need to understand that you're allowed to feel that way. And if there's the pressure of a whole university on you, I'm telling you right now, it is a valid feeling to be very overwhelmed and frustrated, and then to learn to cope with those feelings.
You look at college programs and you bring up DJ Uiagalelei, certainly the NIL situation, a part of the adjustment for him in his first year as a starting quarterback. But you do have programs like Clemson and many others, maybe across the country, maybe all of them, that have begun to understand that mental health and wellness for these players is arguably as valuable as anything else that goes on. From that standpoint, with all of the experts that you bring on Relatively Normal, again, that's his podcast. Make sure you subscribe. Marc Paisant hanging out with us today. All those experts that you bring on in so many different fields. I mean, does anybody identify when that became something that, like you just said, man up, like that was the thing, like toughen up? When did that change in the mind's eye of, the experts that you speak to?
That is it. There's a few people that I like to call out very often when it comes to sports. One is Kevin Love, and NBA basketball player,
Okay.
World champion, gold medalist. Another is DeMar DeRozan. I believe he's a gold medalist, plays Chicago Bulls. Those two guys have come out and publicly talked about their mental health. I grew up in an age where you had the Knicks, the Showtime Lakers, you had the Bad Boys of the Detroit Pistons, you had all these people, and it was, if you showed emotion or if you showed any type of feeling other than I want to kill the person on the other side of the court, you were thought of as less than. And that was unfair to so many people. It was unfair to the league, unfair to young people growing up. And when you hear people like Kevin Love, one of the best power forwards in the game at a certain point, DeMar DeRozan and what he's doing this year in the NBA. You see a commercial with Michael Phelps talking about meditation. You see a commercial with LeBron James talking about his, work with, meditation apps. You're starting to see a lot more people in this generation talk about what they do to stay mentally focused. Because what we forget sometimes, I know you and I talk a lot about sports and we talk about the mental aspect of it. We forget a lot about the focus that's involved. When there's 3.2 seconds left, the game is tied and you're at the free throw line. Like, yes, there's muscle memory involved, but how do you focus to make sure you can at least get the ball from your hands to the hoop? Game 7, and I'm talking about high pressure situations. It doesn't have to be, it could be game 36. You're on the road in Memphis and it's a meaningless game, but you still want to go out there and perform at your highest. You can be at the gym all day. And I think what people are starting to do, especially a person like LeBron James, and we can argue all day about where he stands in number 1, number 2, number 3. But what I want you to focus on is how his longevity is attributed to basically his mental aspect of the game, because he's combined the two. It's not just my physical attributes have to be there, but I have to be present in the moment. LeBron's not thinking about the next game. Michael Jordan, when you think about, you see all the physical attributes Michael Jordan had, but mentally, him, Reggie Miller, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird is a great example. They would be present in the moment. They weren't thinking about what was going to happen, what happened before. They were going to beat you at that moment. And that's when I talk about meditation and mindfulness, is being present in that moment and not really having that anxiety about what may happen. I can tell you right now, I don't know Kobe, rest in peace, Kobe, but I guarantee you he wasn't thinking about what could happen after this shot goes up. He's thinking about taking the shot. He's thinking about taking on that pressure. And that's the mental health I'm talking about.
Again, the podcast, Relatively Normal. Marc Paisant is the host, former Clemson Tiger soccer player. So, Marc, before we get you out of here, let's turn our attention to the national champions, 3-time winners now, winning the national champion this past year. Your thoughts on that game and really the season and Coach Mike Noonan and the job that he's done?
I tell you what, I when I was there, we won an ACC championship. We got to the Elite Eight and lost to Indiana 2-1 in just a heartbreaking fashion, hit the post. And all those memories came back while I'm watching the tournament. And you have to think about where this team was ranked, being an 8th seed and going to the Pacific Northwest to play against Oregon State and beating them on their field. And as a goalkeeper, and I'm very biased, as a goalkeeper, seeing the work that George, I think his name is, wherever the goalkeeper's name is, I apologize for missing his name now.
Yeah, King George. Yeah.
The work King George, just absolutely amazing work from I don't want to call him undersized as disrespect, but usually your goalkeepers are one of the taller and bigger guys. But just knowing that those guys, every game of the tournament, were the hardest working team on the field. At no point can you look back at those games and say that, player for player, maybe defensively, we were the best skilled players, but we had lost 2 of our top scorers throughout the season. And that team came together and decided that they're going to put, the whole state of South Carolina, I said that correctly, the whole state of South Carolina on their back and win this championship for Clemson. So, just Coach Noonan, great job. And it from an old soccer player who's got bad ankles and bad knees and a bad back, it was just so fun to watch. It's just so fun to watch that group of guys just go out and just outwork every other team they play. That's the best part about this.
Again, check out this podcast, Relatively Normal. Marc Paisant, my good buddy, joining us today. Marc, man, always good to catch up with you. Best of luck with the show. You do a tremendous job. And, when you're talking about mental health and wellness, there certainly can't be enough of that out there.
Thank you, Swanee. I appreciate the platform.
That's high quality stuff. I really mean that. And, I'll tell you, we'll talk a little bit more about it. As a matter of fact, we're up against a break. I'll hit a break. I want to come back and talk a little bit more about that. Stay with us.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Money. That's money. Enter it now.
Fox Sports Radio 1400 traffic.
Look out for a wreck on Highway 1 at Oak Drive. Also slow-moving traffic, I-26 westbound near the St. Andrews Road exit.
This report is sponsored by eBay Motors.
Ray Magliozzi here. I don't cook much, but when I need ingredients for my car, eBay Motors has 122 million options. So whether I toasted my transmission or cooked my clutch, eBay Motors has all the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors, let's ride.
By popular demand, Great Southern Homes now lists their coming soon communities online. Whether you're looking for a new home in your hometown, moving to a new town, or just want your pick of choice lots, this is the place to start. Great Southern Homes invites you to put the wow in your new home with options and upgrades. Live green, live smart in your new green smart home. Show your style and personalize your new home with options and upgrades from Great Southern Homes. Find your dream home today, GreatSouthernHomes.com.
Every year, Steve Faircal climbs the stairs at the John Hancock Center in Chicago, 94 floors to the top.
It's called the hustle up the Hancock.
It's hard to believe when you watch Steve today that a few years ago, his lungs were failing and he was fighting to survive.
For 8 hours a day, someone was pounding on my chest to try and keep my lungs clear. I honestly don't think I had more than a couple weeks to live.
That's when Steve received the gift of life, a double lung transplant made possible by an organ donor.
After I got my new lungs, I started doing things that I had never been able to do. I never knew that breathing could feel this good.
Steve climbs to honor his donor and to raise awareness for organ, eye, and tissue donation.
Wouldn't you like that when you left this beautiful planet, that you could save a few lives on your way out? It's an incredible gift.
Imagine what you could make possible by leaving behind the gift of life. Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration. Chris Domine is a husband and a father. Chris is an athlete. Chris is even an Ironman. But 10 years ago, Chris was facing a very different story because his kidneys were failing.
Basically, the doctor said, if you don't get a kidney transplant and if you don't do dialysis, you are going to die.
Fortunately, Chris received a second chance at life, made possible by an organ donor.
You know, your well-being changes from loss of hope to better times ahead.
More than 100 million people in America are registered organ, eye, and tissue donors. People of every age and ethnicity, because they believe it's the right thing to do. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life. Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Hope you enjoyed your meal. And I just want to say, he's lucky to have a brother like you.
Lucky? Caring for my brother is far from easy. But he's a part of me, like my arms and legs, so I'll be his. No time for tired. Nothing can disable this love. He needs me, but I'm the lucky one, even though I need help now and then.
If you're caring for a loved one, visit aarp.org/caregiving for care guides and community. Support for your strength. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
You can help the Federation Center of the Blind continue its mission of opening more doors to blind South Carolinians. Please call 803-254-3777 or email nfbsc@sc.rr.com. Do it today.
Looking for South Carolina's favorite country? You'll find it at 97.5 WCOS.
Happy Wednesday, Clemson Sports Talk, Lawton Swan with you. So good catching up with my buddy Marc Paisant. Again, his podcast, Relatively Normal. I've had a chance to be on there a couple of times to talk about the athletic side of things, sort of tell my story. And I think many of you will enjoy the work that he does. But, you know, one of the things we didn't really get into with DJ, or at least with the thought process behind DJ, is with the NIL. And I brought this up in the past. I mean, Mark sort of mentioned it to a degree, the pressures that these guys deal with. But imagine, and if you've been a part of the show for a lengthy period of time, you've probably heard me say this before, but If we just spitball that DJ got $100,000 for his Dr. Pepper commercials, who knows? May have been less, may have been 20. And let's say that he got $50,000 for his Bojangles work. Right, that's $150,000. Now, that number might be absurdly high. It might be absurdly low. I don't know. By the way, Dr. Pepper and or Bojangles, if you want to come sponsor the show that shakes the Southland for $150,000 a year, I'm here for you. Hit me up. Here's my email, Lawton@ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Hit me up. There you go. But if you assume that that's what he got for 1 year, I don't think these are going to be like continuing contracts. And again, I don't know if it was more or less, but let's just round it off to 150. If you got 150,000 for those two ads, and you want to keep it, you have to perform. I mean, because if you don't, you're minus probably 150,000. And if you really play bad, the way DJ did this past year, then maybe there's no sponsorship money the following season. And I'm not saying that DJ's never going to make it to the NFL. I'm not saying that he's never going to be a pro. But at this point, would you draft him? I mean, look, you'd be drafting off of what he did in high. You'd be drafting off of what he did in high school and the expectations of what he could be. We saw the same thing with Spencer Rattler, right? Your big name didn't deliver. Now Rattler's coming to South Carolina to play with the Gamecocks. Got beat out. And if Cade Klubnik had been at Clemson a year ago, Cade Klubnik probably beats out DJ, and DJ's probably in the portal right now. I mean, if these guys are a year closer in age, Cade certainly gets an opportunity to supplant him a year ago as a true freshman, much like Trevor Lawrence did when he got Kelly Bryant's job. So as a young man, you're dealing with the pressures of, again, all the family things he was dealing with his parents, which aren't, quote-unquote, well documented, but we have mentioned it. Then you've got the issues of maybe that money not coming back into your pocket the following year because you're not performing up to the standards very early on in the season. And then everything else that comes along with the pressures there. And so the mental aspect of the game for DJ, and I've called him a little bit too laissez-faire, a little bit too laid back. Like, I want a guy that's a little more in the groove when it comes down to how he's feeling and not just sitting there slurping down what do you call it? Like a protein shake or something after a ball game, just looking way too chill for the moment. Like, I want a guy with a little edge. I want a little guy like that. You know what I want? You know what I like DJ to be? A little more like Tim Tebow. Remember when Tim Tebow went to the microphone and took responsibility? I mean, this will never happen again. And then just like he hulked up. He's like David Banner. Dun, 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 dun. That's what I want to see. I want to see DJ hulk up a little bit. I want to see DJ fired up and angry and frustrated. Not just so laid back. That's what I'd like to see. 803-450-0086. And you know, I don't know if you can be too laid back. But I do wonder if some of the issues that DJ had dealt with the feeling of the loss of what he might not have next season. Because I don't think these were like multi-year contracts. And he came out stinking it up pretty quickly. And it never recovered. 803-450-0086, 803-450-0086. But that's a heavy burden to you know, first off, it's a heavy burden having that job. It's quite another thing to have to be the guy all season And when we saw DJ as a freshman, he kind of you knew that Trevor was going to be back. Trevor was going to return. And so maybe that allowed him to be a little more comfortable, be a little more loose at Notre Dame in order to play as well as he did. Who knows? I honestly can't say. But I don't think that DJ's inefficiencies or issues are caused by not being a good player. I think those things are caused by the fact that there's a lot of this that is just trapped between his ears. The 6 inches between his ears, I think, is the key to his success in 2022, 2023, and beyond. Whether it's at Clemson, whether it's at Southern Cal, whether it's in the NFL. But I would like to see him get a little more edge after games, win, lose, or draw.
Don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
That's it. That's what I want to see. 803-450-0086. Again, that is the text line. That is the phone line. Thank you for being a part of the show. You know, do us a favor. We talk about subscribing to the website a good bit here on the program. Do us this favor. If you are a Tiger fan or a Gamecock that really likes this show, if you're a Bulldog or Seminole or Yellow Jacket, yeah, don't worry about it. You got bigger fish to fry. I don't know what fish you're frying, but I want to reach out to the Gamecocks and the Tigers here. Contact some of your buddies and say, hey, man, do you listen to Clemson Sports Talk? Let me tell you how to subscribe. Let me tell you how you can listen on the iHeartRadio app, on your Amazon Echo. Would love to bring more Tigers and Gamecocks into the fold over the next 365.
When a community grows, its hospital should grow too. And that's just what we're doing at Lexington Medical Center. We recently launched the largest hospital expansion project in South Carolina history. Our new 10-story patient tower will help us take better care of patients, including the tiniest infants who need special attention. It will also make room for the growing number of patients who need surgery and intensive care. At Lexington Medical Center, our mission to serve our community never wavers. We're here when you need us today, and we'll be there when you need us tomorrow.
Let me tell you about the fine folks over at General Dentistry of Lexington. Dr. Bennett Hammett and Dr. Rick Jackson can take care of all your dental needs. With TVs and headphones in every room, digital x-rays done in a flash, you can relax while their wonderful staff takes care of all your dental needs. 803-957-2297. Tell them you heard about them right here on the show that shakes the Southland and get $50 off your first visit. That's General Dentistry of Lexington, located at 109 Timber Mill Drive, right off of Highway 1.
Hi, I'm Alicia Kaufman Quinton. My daddy, Billy Kaufman, opened Kaufman's Meat Plant at our present location in 1955. My family still works hard every day to ensure fresh quality cuts of beef, pork, and poultry. How about a tasty T-bone, ribeye, or New York strip steak? But to order at Kaufman's Meat & Place, just look for the signs near the intersection of US 1 and I-20 in Lexington. Call us at 356-0076 to place your order. Kaufman's Meat & Place, when you want the very best your money can buy.
Now, your chance to win $1,000. Just enter this nationwide keyword on our website. Money. That's money. Enter it now.
It's Colin Coward. Here's what's trending from iHeart Sports Network, presented by Mercedes-Benz.
It was the most thrilling game of the wild card weekend when the 49ers went into Dallas and escaped with a win over the Cowboys. At the end of the game, a bit of controversy as quarterback Dak Prescott failed to spike the ball in time to get one final shot at the end zone, but the 49ers never trailed in this one. They're now 8-2 in their last 10 games. Next up, the top-seeded Packers on Saturday. I'm Chris Collinsworth.
They say good things come to those who wait. The 2021 Mercedes-Benz SUV family proves otherwise. It takes no time at all to set up a test drive at your local Mercedes-Benz dealer. Learn more at MBUSA.com.
Think you can handle another iHeartRadio True Crime Week? With thousands of true crime podcasts to choose from, finding your next case to binge can be a little intimidating. Lucky for you, our investigators are on the scene with an entire lineup of podcasts to get you started. From stone cold killers to cold cases waiting to be cracked, including the new iHeart podcast, The MLK Tapes.
He never confessed.
Open the free iHeart app and search True Crime to start your next podcast obsession. iHeartRadio. Discover music, radio, and podcasts you'll love.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I'd like kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back
Sure.
tomorrow?
Let's check with Mom. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm going to return the kayak. Just make sure you have everything.
Yep. Can we walk home?
How about a taxi? 233 North Maple, please.
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Also, find fun activities to do like boating and biking or camping and hiking, plus much more. It's all right in your naturehood.
Best day ever.
A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Sports Radio. Fox Attitude. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400.
Back at it on a Wednesday. So Mark Ryan, ESPN Upstate, go on his show from time to time, put out a tweet at some point yesterday afternoon, and I was laying in bed, and I was reading through Twitter, and I was like, hold up, let me respond to this. Because honestly, I do not respond to things too often on social media, especially something that, a guy who hosts a show that I go on might tweet, because we can talk about it on the air. But yeah, I've been a proponent of an expanded college football playoff and continue to be. And I laid out what it would have looked like, and we talked about it yesterday. But Mark tweeted this on Tuesday. He said the average margin of victory in the wild card weekend was 17.1 points. He said the average margin of victory in 8 years of college football playoff semifinals is 21.1. He said the moral of the story, more isn't better. Parity isn't deep enough to produce competitive contests with expanded playoff field, even in the NFL. And a couple of things here. First off, to me, 4 points per game is a good deal different. I mean, it's the difference in being down late in the ball game, 2 touchdowns, and being down 10 points. The other thing is that the conceptual design behind a playoff is to eliminate the fat. And that's what I said to him. I said, look, don't you have to wait until the NFC and AFC championships to determine whether or not an expanded playoff is a good or bad idea? Wouldn't it be better, and I didn't do this, but wouldn't it be better to go over the past 8 years of NFL playoffs and look at what the NFC championship and the AFC championship games have produced? Wouldn't that determine over an 8-year period of what the semifinals of a larger playoff deliver? Because the goal is to get rid of Cincinnati. Sorry, Bearcats. The goal is to find the weakest links and eliminate them so that you get the best games at the end. Now, does it mean you are always going to get that? It does not. You can have a playoff that plays its way down. There can be great games throughout the entire first and second rounds, but then you get into the championship games and it's not great either way. None of them go well, and then the Super Bowl is a blowout. That can happen. But what does it look like over the long haul? I think that's the legit question. And you know what I'll do? Well, we got 4 minutes during the break. I ought to be able to calculate this during the 4 minutes during the break, because Mark's already done the legwork on the 8 years of the college football playoff semifinals. 21.1 points per game, the average margin of victory. I'm going to go do the NFL. Now, look, granted, the NFL is set up so that the bottom teams get the best players to try to level the playing field. But once you hit the playoffs in college football, you should have, if things go right, the best of the best. But barring a expanded tournament, you might get a Cincinnati game in there. You might fish up some blowouts too that come along the way at all levels. But I will be intrigued to see, when I crunch the numbers here during the upcoming break, what that actually looks like. And I will do that. Mark said, he responded to me. He said, I don't believe adding a seventh team in each conference assists in producing better games. Well, no kidding. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, Mark. Mark, are you listening to what we're saying here? I am talking about trimming it down to the final four teams and having those games be better, not just adding teams in. The goal for me is that the latter rounds are better. Mark said, I put greater value on scarcity. Make the playoff berth mean something. He says it doesn't in the NBA. More than half of the league gets in. 12 out of 32 teams, or 38% of the league, just felt right. I think comparing the NBA and their playoff models, apples and oranges. The goal is, are your final four games, or three games, the matchups with the final four, are those better than the scenario where you just pick the top four and let the top four play? Now, look, if I'm right on this, Mark, if I go back, I'm going to do 8 years NFL championship games during the break. I'm going to punch the numbers, and I'm going to see if the average margin of victory is greater than or less than the 21. Is that what the number was? 21.1 points per game differential that we've seen in the semifinals, which are just selected by human beings and not played out on the field, the semifinals of the college football playoff. And if I'm right, Mark, you're going to owe me an apology.
Well, pardon me, Mr. Perfect.
I'm kidding. I don't care one way or the other, but I do think that I'm going to be right on this. I think we're going to see that the NFL playoffs are going to have a tighter result in the Final Four than the college football playoffs. And I believe that all comes down to the elimination of the fat. And I will go as far as to say this too. I think it will be less than the 17.1 points per game that was the average margin of victory this weekend in the NFL. Like, I think you're going to see, not only is this number better than the 21.1 from college, I think you're going to see that it's better than the 17.1 that took place this weekend during the wild card round. Let's find out. Let me get the number. Let me get the calculator. Let's punch in the numbers. Let's see what we got. 803-450-0086. Final segment coming up on the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk, on Fox Sports Radio 1400 and on the iHeartRadio app, and of course, podcasted for you each and every day. Stay with us.
For my small bookstore to thrive, I can't just sell books. So I created a radio ad at iHeartAdBuilder.com to tell everyone about our author events, our story hours for kids, and our amazing lattes. Now we're busier than ever. I'd call that a success story.
A custom radio ad from iHeart Ad Builder is the fast, affordable way to drive customers to your business. Put the power of radio to work for you. Get started now at iHeartAdBuilder.com.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Mike Capel here, serial entrepreneur with words from another happy payroll customer.
My husband and I started a business together, and I had no idea where to start when it came to payroll. And a friend of mine recommended Patriot, and I have not looked back since. It was extremely user-friendly. I was actually able to understand it and run everything extremely well. And anytime I've had a question, they have been so quick to answer and help me. I definitely recommend it to anyone who is looking for a payroll software that is easy to use, user-friendly, and really offers everything that you need when it comes to something that's beneficial for your business.
Visit us at patriotsoftware.com. Use promo code RADIO and get 2 months of payroll free. That's patriotsoftware.com.
patriotsoftware.com. Accounting and payroll. Keep your time and money.
Are you thinking about refinancing your home, but worried that closing costs could cancel out any money you would save? It could happen. In fact, average closing costs for a $300,000 home in South Carolina are over $2,000. Yikes! How's that going to save you money? Cap your costs with a zero closing cost mortgage from Cap Center, your local mortgage lender.
This is our 6th time using Cap Center. And once again, the quality of service and speed of processing was excellent, and the savings are substantial.
This was my 3rd refinance with Cap Center. I've been very satisfied. The entire process is simple, never any surprises, and zero closing costs means zero closing costs.
Cap your closing costs. Visit capcenter.com. Equal housing lender. Visit capcenter.com for rates, savings, and offer limitations. This ad contains real client feedback voiced by actors. NMLS ID 67717. NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
People been saying to your friend, get a different face. And posting on their feed, they're super ugly. The things they say to them online are cruel and they're not true. So tell your friend, I'll stand up for you. Don't worry, I know what to do. Oh, tell the world I see. With an emoji. To stop the bullies.
Know someone who's being bullied online? Send the witness emoji. It looks like an eye in a speech bubble, and it's in the symbol section near the clocks in your phone. You'll let the world know it isn't cool, and you'll let your friend know you care. Learn more about the witness emoji at eyewitnessbullying.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Families affected by disasters urgently need support. Help the American Red Cross provide meals and shelter to those affected by disasters, big and small. Donate to Red Cross Disaster Relief. Go to redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS.
Win $1,000.
No way.
Oh, baby. Yes way. It's a grand in your hand. Listen every hour from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. weekdays for your chance to win.
What have you done for me lately? It's a fair question. Just don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Don't forget history. Lucky for us at Clemson, the answers to the questions, what have you done for me lately, and what have you done always, are the same. We win.
Final segment on a Wednesday afternoon, and I think my man Gomer Pyle would have said it best. I wish I had it on the soundboard, but I don't. Surprise, surprise, surprise. I was right. That's right. Swanee was right. Get it straight. So, again, what we're looking at here is a tweet from Mark Ryan, who said that the average margin of victory in the wild card weekend was 17.1 points. He said the average margin of 8 years of the college football playoff semifinals is 21.1. And he was saying that a larger playoff doesn't necessarily going to deliver you better results. It already delivered. Like 17.1 is already better than 21.1. But I wanted to take it further. Did the games get better the further down you went? And I went through today during the break. Here's what we got. And these are out of order right now because I just wrote them down pretty quickly. But in the NFC, margin of victory over the past 8 championship games, a 6-point game, a 6-point overtime game, a 5-point game, a 7-point game, a 3-point overtime game, a 31-point beatdown, a 23-point beatdown, and a 34-point beatdown. 5 of the games out of the 8 were under a touchdown. 2 of them were overtime. The average there, 14.3. Now, I did get a little concerned because there was a 38-point win in the AFC with the Patriots at one point, I think. But this is what it looked like in the AFC. A 14-point win, an 11-point win, a 6-point overtime victory, a 4-point win, a 21-point win, a 2-point win, a 38-point win, and a 10-point win. And when I was crunching that, I thought, uh-oh, big trouble. It was actually better than the NFC. 13.25 margin, points per game margin in the AFC. You add those two up, the combined margin of the conference championship games over 8 years in the NFL is 13.7. 13.7 points per game. So you take that 21.1 minus 13.7, and I'll tell you the NFL championship, the Final Four is a touchdown better football, 7.4 points on average better. That's a full touchdown. Now, you can complain about the opening round of the playoffs being blowouts, and you can complain about whatever you want, but the fact is the point of those blowouts in the opening round of the NFL playoffs is to get rid of the fat, which is the reason that you would want to do it collegiately. Because the goal should be to deliver better games at the end. The NFL does that based on my numbers. What I would love to do, and I don't have time to do it, wouldn't it be nice to go through and see if you took the opening round matchups in the NFL, and let's say that they averaged out to, I'm just going to spitball a number here, 18 points per game. And then the second round, what if it got down to 17? And then the third round, what if it got down to the 13.7 or whatever? Like, what if every round you found that historically it got better? Wouldn't that tell you that the college football playoffs would be better if they were larger?
How dare you fill my head with such loathsome propaganda?
Well, wouldn't they? I mean, even though that is a system in the NFL built to create parity, the reality is once we hit the college football playoffs, we should be in some level of parity. Those should be the top teams in the sport. And even if we take all the conference champions and do whatever scenario you want, the goal is that you will eliminate teams that don't belong so that your final 4 games are better. What do you care if Utah's taking on Boise State and that game ends up being a blowout? You don't. You don't care about that in the regular season. But what you do care about is that if and when Utah runs into Ohio State, they get eliminated. And they're not there in the Final Four, which if they were to just go undefeated in the Pac-12 one year, they might be. And maybe they're the fat. And I don't know how I picked the teams. It was kind of just a willy-nilly selection.
All right, stop it. That's enough. I can't take it anymore. You're not even making sense. You're just saying words.
Right, that's what I was doing. I was just saying words, just picking teams. But the reality is that the games are better in the Final Four in the NFL than they have been in college football by a margin of over a touchdown per game average. 7.4 points per game. That, to me, that tells you why trimming the fat would be an answer to giving us better playoffs, because maybe Clemson doesn't beat the brakes off of Ohio State 31-0 because perhaps the Buckeyes get beat before then. Or might I suggest that part of the reason that we have these blowouts is because of the huge layoff. And maybe if we had a playoff instead of a layoff that took place, these teams would be a little bit more in rhythm when they come and meet, even if it is Clemson and Ohio State. Answering that bell after 20 days off, I mean, that's not easy. Maybe that's another byproduct of it. What we've got now is a layoff, not a playoff. Let's get to a playoff. Cut a game from the regular season, and let's increase the playoff. That only, as a matter of fact, that's less football overall because it takes a game away from 8 teams that don't get into the playoff. That's all the time we've got for the day. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, as always, y'all take care now.
Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan on Columbia's home for sports. Fox Sports Radio 1400. Fox Sports Radio 1400 traffic.
Look out for a wreck on Highway 1 at Oak Drive. Also slow-moving traffic, I-26 westbound near the St. Andrews Road exit.
This report is sponsored by Taco Bell. Raise your hand if you like burritos. Put a Taco Bell $2 beefy melt burrito in that hand. Seasoned beef with a 3-cheese blend? Put another beefy melt burrito in the other hand. You're welcome. At participating Taco Bell stores for a limited time only. Price and participation vary. Tax extra.
For 28 years, the professional staff of the Hobbs Group and Hobbs Group Advisors has been dedicated to helping others achieve their financial goals by delivering quality, objective financial and accounting solutions to a diverse client base of individuals and businesses all over South Carolina. We offer tax and audit services, bookkeeping, payroll, litigation support, employee benefits, personal financial planning, investment management, and insurance services. Please call us at 803-799-0555 or visit our website, hobbscpa.com, to learn more about our people and services.
Paid for by Consumer Tort Network. Always check with your doctor before discontinuing any medication.
Has your doctor told you that you have cancer? Have you taken Zantac or another generic version of this popular drug to help treat stomach issues? Then pay close attention to this message. The FDA said it detected low levels of a probable cancer-causing chemical known as NDMA in Zantac and other generic forms of the drug. Some of the largest stores in the country have them off the shelves. If you've been diagnosed with cancer and you've taken Zantac or a generic equivalent, call the Consumer Tort Network now at 800-513-6073. You could receive a free cash award and have your medical expenses covered. We represent some of the largest law firms in America. They have proven records fighting the big pharmaceutical giants, and there's no upfront cost to you. They only get paid if you win. We're here to help, so please call now. 800-513-6073. 800-513-6073. That's 800-513-6073.
Let me tell you who I trust to protect my home and my family. Modern Exterminating. Hey, it's Lawton Swan, and when you need top quality service from a team that knows what bugs you, call Modern Exterminating, 765-2315. They're locally owned and offer a full complement of pest elimination services, including complete pest control, termite plans, moisture control, and more. Check out Modern Exterminating online at pestfreesc.com or give them a call today, 765-2315. Modern Exterminating, they know what bugs you.
We first opened about 10 years ago. We were small, just a few of us, but it was exciting. I always dreamt of having my own business. It was kind of slow at first, but things started picking up. We had big plans, but in our wildest dreams, we never thought we'd have this much work. Yeah, with so many businesses caught off guard by the storm, Reed Waste Management has never been busier.
What will become of your business after a disaster? Nearly 2/3 of businesses aren't prepared for an emergency, and 40% of businesses that experience a disaster never recover. Make an emergency plan now, before it's too late. For a free online tool that helps you develop an emergency plan to keep your business up and running should disaster strike, visit ready.gov/business. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, the American Red Cross, and the Ad Council.
Okay, forest animals, kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow, have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. River, how's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man.
I love it. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. Okay. Squirrel.
The forest has been preparing just for you. To learn more about cool